Hello, London's Blue listeners. This is a somewhat tired editor, Jake, the next day in Philly. Just a heads up, this is our Philly live show. We battled audio issues pretty hard at the Philly venue. We almost had a speaker catch on fire. We were in a very large, echoey, columned stone room where for the beginning of the pod, many people were chatting it up and enjoying their time. So it is a beast. It was not a easy time, but we wanted to make sure that you guys could listen to this if you wanted to, and that you could enjoy a little bit of what it was like to be in Philly. So please do enjoy. It gets a little bit cleaner in the back half once the crowd has kind of given us some mercy, knowing that we were having issues. Essentially, for clarity, we literally ended up having to use one speaker in front of a crowd, but so many of you stayed, so many of you enjoyed the pod, so many of you were incredibly graceful to sit there and be quiet and listen on this tiny little speaker that we ended up with. So lots of love to everyone that was there, massively. We are all so grateful for you. You were all so nice to meet, and we hope you enjoyed. But for our listeners, if you want to enjoy this one, please do. Just be aware, it's probably not our cleanest. Much love. Keep the blue flag flying high.
All right, Chelsea fans, welcome back to another episode. That's right, of the London is Blue podcast. Hopefully your favorite Chelsea podcast out there and a part of the Men in Blazers Media Network. This is a London is Blue live event brought to you by our friends at Mick Ultra. We are here in Philadelphia with the Philadelphia Blues. Can we get your noise?
Come on.
It's a very packed house tonight here. I'm Dan, one of your hosts. We also have Nick at the very far end of the table.
Hello.
And
The smattering of applause I deserve.
you have to do the full intro to get the actual applause like that. But what I think is actually going to get you more applause is a couple years after the fact, we've been able to bring back two legendary guests of the podcast. We have one, Liam Twomey of The Athletic, here with us.
Hey.
And then we also have our good friend of the podcast, Nizaar Kinsella, now the BBC.
Hey.
Thank you. Yeah, it feels like a reunion with you guys, with everyone. It's brilliant.
I'm glad you feel that way. We really had to kind of work hard to get you back on the show. There was lots of approvals, things of that nature. But we have a lot to talk about tonight because, again, it's been a couple years since we've been here in Philadelphia. We have the inaugural Club World Cup, hashtag take it to the world. Chelsea Football Club looking to absolutely smash the competition against Flamengo here in the next game, hopefully to secure a group victory, which would be absolutely fantastic. Nick, as we think about this, though, the starting lineup the last time that Chelsea played here in Philadelphia, do you want to go through some of the names that were on that starting 11?
Yeah, so the last time we were here, this is like genuinely, it's almost like frightening to think about how different the squad was compared to what it is now. In goal, Kepa Arrizabalaga played in that game. He's fine, just let him be. Malo Gusto got a little bit of playing time. Thiago Silva played in the back line. Had to be done. Levi Colwell got some time in the back line, and one Ben Chilwell was also present. That feels like years ago now. Conor Gallagher and Andre Santos in midfield. Raheem Sterling on the right. There you go. Love that. That guy. Carney Chukwuemeka in the middle, and Kunku up top, and on the left was Ian Madsen, who played left wing for us that day. Yeah.
He was a goal machine that preseason.
He was great that preseason.
I mean, when you think about that one, though, Liam, in terms of that match and how much has changed for Chelsea over that time, I mean, the real question is Andre Santos had a half of a game here. Will he get more minutes tomorrow as we look at the game?
Well, I hope so, because they gave us a chance to talk to him at the training ground today and we ran quotes. So as a journalist, you always hope that it's actually relevant. First of all, hello Philly, hello people who've come to Philly. It's an absolute pleasure to be back after 2 years for games that matter, or so FIFA tell us. We'll see. First of all, I think you missed an opportunity for an incredible and incredibly difficult quiz with that starting 11. I mean, Kepa's at least still on the books. But I do think, actually, to get back to the question, I do think Andre Santos will get some minutes. Moresca said today in his press conference he's looking to make 4 to 5 changes per game. I think they know how much fatigue is already in the legs heading into this tournament. Santos is probably one of the fresher guys, and he hates Flamengo. If that's not a reason to pick him, I don't know what is.
Sounds good to me. I don't know.
What I remember from my last time in Philly was we did the press conference for that game. It was Chelsea versus Brighton, Premier League Summer Series, I think, and Chelsea was trying to sign Brighton, and in return Brighton were trying to sign Levi Colwill in some mad game, and we went to the press conferences and watched both managers argue over this situation. It was hilarious. So yeah, Philly's a hilarious place to be. I love that.
All sorts of shenanigans could happen. Is that your statement on Philly?
I want more shenanigans this time around.
WWE style walkouts. I mean, it could happen.
That is shenanigans, actually. Yeah, fair play.
Not according to Romeo Lavia.
He loves it.
Well, you do have some players who actually enjoy the idea of the walkout, and then others have no idea why they're doing it.
Yeah, I thought when I saw the Chelsea players do it in the first game, they either completely tuned it out or looked deeply uncomfortable. But when we mentioned it to them afterwards, there were lots of laughs. Lavia had a bit of fun with it. I think there are definitely some personalities, not just at Chelsea but in the Premier League, who would really embrace. Cristiano Ronaldo is probably thinking I was born 15 years too late for this to come in.
I think you have to do something though. If you're going to walk out individually, you have to do something.
This is what I was saying. I was like, either you have to do a dance or they all need their own individual walkout music like baseball, because if they had their own individual walkout music, that would be pretty cool. But if they were doing like dances and stuff, that would even be better. Like,
the real question is, if they brought it to the Premier League next season, who would be the best Chelsea player at the official walkout eventually?
yeah. Noni Madueke.
Yeah. I think Cucurella could do a great job.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
Cucurella would do something hilarious.
Probably just penguin themed.
Well, so we're here in Philadelphia. We got the next game coming up, but we haven't had a chance to see 90 minutes of competitive football from Chelsea. Again, this match does matter. They get a £1.5 million for every match that they win in this group stage, so it is at least financially imperative that Chelsea were to win versus draw these matches. We did get a chance in the first match to see a little Liam Delap for the first time for Chelsea. You've had a chance to maybe watch a little bit of the training perspective. What are you liking or seeing from him initially in these first couple matches and moments you've had a chance to see him?
Well, we didn't get to see much in training. Just to give you guys an insight, when we get invited to watch open training, we get invited to watch 15 minutes of footballers executing the kind of passes that any of us could, or jogging at the lowest possible speed, and then they evict us from the stadium and get on with the real stuff. So I think my impressions of Delap are solely based on the 2 games that Ipswich played last year and that cameo against LAFC, where you have to say he looked pretty lively.
When I was watching Delap play in the first game, I thought that he was very much like the Ipswich Delap. He was sort of aggressive, driving it at the sort of defence. Like the first action was running straight in behind with sort of power and pace. I think that's what we're going to see a lot of him, being sort of fearless, relentless, aggressive. I just want to see if he can get on the end of stuff as well. That's going to be the question: can he become a goal machine that Chelsea fans want him to be? Because I think that's what Chelsea fans need. That's what Chelsea need is a lot of goals. So from a number 9. So there's the question: he looks great, but is he going to be a goal scorer consistently at the highest level? And Chelsea are back at the highest level in the Champions League as well, so they will need a striker of that calibre.
I know people came out of that game saying that Nicholas Jackson looks a lot more motivated because the lap's there. I'm not sure I agree with that. I think he just showed some of the good things that we see from Jackson, linking up, holding up play. Still didn't really carry much of a goal threat in that game. Neither really did the lap. And I think in the longer term, it's Moresca's challenge above all else to get the system working to the point where these guys are getting in positions to score, because they're not necessarily getting shots at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, what we saw is like they're playing facilitator right now. Like they're leading the line as to facilitate other players running off the wing or coming in from the middle. And I think you've got to work away if you're Moresca over this summer and in the preseason to get shots on target more regularly for your strikers. Because I think the second half of the year last year, Chelsea just did not manufacture a ton of those chances for whatever reason. And it might be that we were crossing the ball into shorter players who might not have had the best opportunity to head the ball, except for Mark Cucurella, who's a legend, or that the runs in behind, the passes simply weren't there to play. And so I'm really intrigued to see if the movement becomes a little bit different this summer and maybe gets a little bit more clinical as we move into the start of the Premier League season, which is less than 2 months away.
So we had a chance to see a little so far. What surprised you in that first game? I mean, I think the thing that caught me off guard was maybe seeing Nkunku come out for any type of competitive football, but was it anything else, or was that the top?
I think it surprised me to see Nkunku on the plane, never mind on the pitch. Yeah, that's been a strange one to track, and we still haven't really got a good sense from Moresca of how much he really is depending on Nkunku. I think if there was a surprise, it was that Moresca was immediately comfortable enough to manage minutes at half-time in that game, taking off Romeo Lavia, Reece James, with the score still technically in the balance. But then we did kind of see that in the Conference League, which is why I came away from that game thinking that there was a little bit of a Conference League vibe to the first group match of this competition. That will obviously change as the stakes raise, but at least Chelsea have plenty of experience navigating them.
Yeah, what surprised me was, Nkunku's involvement definitely with other players on the bench, but I think it's a good thing because I don't think putting everyone in a bomb squad and saying you're not going to play for us is a great way to sell a player. I think it's better if you look like we would keep him, but we would also sell him. That's a better negotiating position, so I like to see those kind of players involved until a proper bid comes in for them. And then latterly, what surprised me is more off the field stuff. So Enzo Moresca, when we've been around him, has been super relaxed, and I just feel like winning the Conference League, getting that trophy, and then top four as well, I think that's sort of taken a bit of a monkey off his back and sort of freed him up. He just looks confident, sounds confident, he's chilled, he's answering all our questions, he's coming up with great anecdotes in the press conferences at the minute. So I have seen a bit of a change in Moresca. I don't know if it's just because he's in America and it's sunny and that's it. And maybe even he's thinking it's a bit of a pre-season, but I have seen a different side to Moresca because when we're in those press conferences sometimes during the Premier League season, he looks a bit stressed, a bit cantankerous, a bit difficult, but he's looking very smiley and chilled, so I'm liking to see that.
It feels like the tipping point was him telling us all to F off. After Michael Forrest, he just seems like a man unleashed now.
Yeah, sometimes when you tell someone to F off, it actually calms you down for a long while.
I found that personally. I mean, Naz, I guess to your broader point on Moresca, he goes from having a really tough second half of the year, you could visibly stressed, like not having the best time, to now a little bit more que sera, sera, right? Do you think that is like the additional trust that he's earned through the end of the season and the performances and the way that the team kind of rallied and played a kind of a grittier style? I mean, it was not the sexiest football we've ever seen, but it was a really nice way to end the year.
Yeah, what he kept telling us in sort of the mid part of the season when Chelsea were playing well is, I'd love to win 1-0, I'd love to win more games 1-0, and then at the end of the season they were kind of doing that, so they kind of found a way to be solid, and that got them over the line at the end in all the competitions. So I think that's been a big thing, but I do think that he's the kind of person maybe who likes to say I told you so. From his Leicester days as well, he quite enjoyed that. Sort of having a little argument with the fans, having a bit of needle, he can't resist. Similarly with the media, I think. And yeah, I think he's just in a very good position to say, I've achieved something now, so lay off of me for a bit.
Chelsea have had a fair few managers over the years who love to give a little bit of stick. So I get it.
I guess from a competitive standpoint, Liam, what's the expectation you would have for Moresca in terms of getting through this competition? Like, where do you want to see him, or where do you think the bar should be for him and Chelsea within the Club World Cup?
It's really hard to say, because when we've had these conversations with people at the club, it's been hard to get a sense of a clear boundary of success or failure in this tournament. Is it quarter-final, semi-final? The line has pretty much always been, we want to try and win it. We want to give the best version of ourselves and take it really seriously. And Moresca has carried that message onto this in everything that he says. He's going to have to toe that line between what he says, but also what he does in this group stage of keeping players involved, taking the group games seriously enough, but not so seriously that they have nothing in the tank for when the real tests come. So I think you look at it, the bracket, there's a real chance for them to at least reach a quarter-final before they play. I mean, could potentially be PSG, and I think if they did play PSG, especially the way they started this tournament, there's no shame in losing to a team like that right now. But I think in general they're well positioned to actually keep you all around here for a little while, keep us around here for a little while.
I know you're looking forward to that extended stay in the US. That's definitely always on the books for Chelsea in a competition like this, in the first competition. When you think about the players in terms of trying to find their own success, maybe players that are either on the bubble for what their Chelsea futures might look like, Naz, players that potentially could be in a better situation, potentially could be in a worse situation on how they play within this tournament, who are you particularly looking at as this could be the make or break tournament for them in their Chelsea career?
I think, if we're honest, Robert Sanchez is under the microscope, not only with the fans, but now it's kind of become clear that Chelsea looked at Mike Maignan and tried to sign him from AC Milan. So I do think that's a player that's really under the microscope. But yeah, beyond that, can Noni Madueke make sure he gets on the right wing spot? Enzo Moresca insisted he wasn't selling him today, but let's see if he sort of sticks to that, if Chelsea stick to that. And then Pedro Neto as well, if they're going to sign another winger, like can he do well? And he was man of the match in that first game. For me, he did stand out. I really like Pedro Neto. He had a good final as well. So it seems he's coming to a bit of another level. There's always been a question mark on certain players, and I think those three for me are the ones that I can think of off the top of my head.
It does feel like this question should be sponsored by Trevor Chalobah. Not because he's doubted by the fans, but because he's constantly trying to win over people at Chelsea, I think. Even not necessarily even Moresca, but just the way he's viewed in terms of the squad planning. And we saw it again in the second half of last season. He gets into the team, he's building a solid partnership with Levi Colwell, and then Tosin's back in, and Tosin seems to be the preferred partner, at least to start this tournament. So Chalobah's always in that spot where he's having to prove himself, and he's always maybe one window away from being bomb squadded or Chelsea actively shopping him.
Could I add Malo Gusto to the list? I think if you look at his performances since he's been asked to invert, it's gone significantly down from where he was as like an overlapping fullback last year. And even when you watch him play for France as an overlapping fullback, he looks like a whole different guy. Is he a guy that's at risk this summer just because of the system?
I've not heard anything personally with Malo Gusto, but I do get it with the performances that he struggled with the system. In my opinion, I agree. And then you look at the Conference League final. I felt sorry for him in the Conference League final because I thought he was, he clearly made a mistake and then it got in his head. That's the way I saw it. It was kind of a classic case of a footballer making a mistake. The mistake gets in the head and they can't recover. So and the mistake was directly related to stepping into midfield, which I had a match report written to say that Moresca's tactical plan actually caused problems in the final, but luckily Chelsea came back. Palmer decided to win the game.
just on that, we got some time with Malo Gusto after the LAFC game, and I specifically asked him how he's found that role moving into midfield, and he kind of said what he's supposed to say, which is, it's a new challenge for me, I'm throwing myself into it, I'll do whatever the coach wants me to do. But it didn't strike me as excited, shall we say, to be playing that role, because I think there's probably a part of him that knows this isn't a natural transition. This is not someone like Trent Alexander-Arnold moving into midfield when his team has the ball with all the technical quality that he has. Malo Gusto is not necessarily the best passer in the team, and he's being forced to make very complex decisions under pressure. So it's something I've never really been super convinced by when I've seen it. I think Cucurella does a better job in that role. Not as good as the job he does crashing the back post whenever Chelsea need to urgently get a goal.
When you need a goal scorer, Cucurella shows up. That's exactly what happens.
So one of the things that people love when we bring you on the show is to talk about what Chelsea are doing in terms of business in the summer. Transfers are always a very, very hot conversation. Chelsea have done some business to start this summer, but maybe not as much as fans thought, given the special window, the exemption period where they were able to register players, and seem to fall flat in executing plans that they said or seemed to be very confident that they were going to get done before the Club World Cup. How do you view, Naz, Chelsea's upcoming business? How will it center around their performance in the Club World Cup? Is it going to be potentially players before the group stage? Is it going to be after the exit of the tournament now? How are Chelsea thinking about their business?
Well, what is interesting about Chelsea's business is that their main transfer target, Jamie Gittins, is not able to play for Chelsea in the tournament. Even if Chelsea get a deal agreed, he's sort of cup tied himself. So maybe they could wait a bit later for that. But the other factor that might influence Chelsea making moves a bit earlier, I think, is the PSR deadline. And that's not because I think Chelsea have an issue with PSR, because they don't. If you read The Athletic, they've got the best PSR position in the Premier League. Wow.
You'll never sing that.
You'll never sing that. That is the champions of PSR. But the issue is that they might want to exploit other Premier League teams, so there will be a bit of a flurry of activity on June 30th, and Chelsea will be quite aware of opportunities that might present themselves.
The sense we got with Chelsea's transfer negotiations before the Club World Cup was that they were keen to do deals, they were keen to strengthen the squad as much as they could, but they weren't going to pay any kind of pre-Club World Cup tax on deals, and other clubs were clearly letting that inform their asking prices, shall we say. I think Gibbs was clearly one of those. Mannion, I think a lot of fans have a different view because they look at the numbers and maybe seems like Chelsea are making too much of an issue given the prices they pay for other players. But there was certainly an issue with Gibbs, and their view was the squad is strong enough to go into the Club World Cup to get through the group stage, and then you've got this mid-window, which obviously they now can't use on Gibbs, but there are other players. Garnacho they did think with as well.
Can I ask a question though, right? So originally reported 42 million for Gibbs, right? That was the initial bid. And now Chelsea are like somewhere in the neighborhood of, let's call it 55 is the asking price. And they don't want to pay the Club World Cup tax, which I get, that's fine. It's a small tournament and you're trying to buy a player for multiple years in the future. So that makes sense to me. But if you end up going up 13 million pounds anyway through negotiation, haven't you lost that argument?
Well, I think we have to see the way it plays out. I'm not aware of anything, and I say this in the knowledge that David Goldstein might just be reporting something right now. So we're not aware in the last day or so of major developments in Gibbs. It can happen at any time. But until it plays out, we can't really judge what the transfer fee is. But what we do know from the last 2 years is that when Chelsea like a player, they're not actually super fussy about the transfer fee. It's the salary that they really care about.
If you can hear me, I think with Gittins, also the issue is I think the Club World Cup might devalue him. He's been on the bench He's not fitting the system of Dortmund, so there's a bit of a game of chicken maybe going on over the fee. Chelsea don't want to pay more. Dortmund want them to pay more, so it's a case of will Dortmund play him and will he do well? And that's kind of, I guess that's going to kind of influence what the final fee might be there, or if Chelsea walk away.
I think one of the other things that Chelsea have to do is they have to sell a bunch of players as well. We are not just a buying club, we are a selling club. Who do you think Chelsea are going to have the hardest time trying to move on this summer?
Well, I think like the players who are not here, you know, Felix, Sterling, Chilwell, Disasi, those ones are going to be harder to move on because you know, clubs are going to lowball Chelsea, I think. That's always the way with these players. So, yeah, you're going to get a lot of clubs trying to loan these players out as well instead of buy them. So those are the ones I'm thinking of. And Kunku might not be that easy to get rid of either. I think the problem if you have loads of players in, then it's harder to get players out because, you know, clubs sense that you're going to give them a deal. And that's probably where Chelsea need to be a bit careful. So the new thing with Mudryk is that he's finally been charged by the FA, so there's been a long lead into this period, and he's had his FA charge. It means we kind of know the next steps. It's going to be more legal stuff. He'll have the chance to appeal eventually, and we'll get all that kind of news in due course, and then we might learn his punishment as well next, which is going to be the next big story out of this, I think. So his lawyers are kind of fighting his case. He's got the same lawyers that Paul Pogba had when he had his similar issues with this kind of stuff. And yeah, we're kind of waiting to see. But for now we know Mudryk's charged. He failed his B test. Usually when you're charged, it's not always the case, but it means usually you pass your, both of your tests, the A test and the B test, have come back positive. So yeah, that's sort of the situation as I understand it.
Why does it take this long to get the B sample through? Do we have any clue on the timeline here? Because Pogba's was a lot shorter from the initial charge to when it was actually like B sample confirmed.
This is also not how we thought that part of the conversation was going to go, but we're here, we're going to keep on rolling with it.
I think it's less a case of the B sample and more the fact that this is a process that plays out behind confidentiality. And so I know it's annoying for fans to follow. It's really annoying for us as journalists to try and follow because all the key parties involved aren't really saying anything, even off the record, because it is so sensitive. And the one thing that you don't even get a clear sense of is the time frame. Like I don't know about you, Nizaar, but we didn't have an advance warning that FA decision or that FA statement was coming out. And I don't think we'll necessarily get advance warning of when any decision is made over a punishment. It will just come down and then we'll scramble to report it and follow the story from there. But that tends to be how these disciplinary processes play out, and when it's in particular a doping violation, it's just kind of so shrouded in secrecy, even for members of the media, that it is quite difficult to talk about.
It's definitely a legally sensitive subject, so it's a shame because we want to talk more about Mudryk, what's going to happen to him, how much it'll be, but all we can really talk about is precedents, and we know that the maximum punishment in this case, which is possible, is 4 years. So you've seen that in a lot of the headlines, that Mudryk could be banned for 4 years. It does sound alarming because if you're banned for 4 years, it's very hard to have a football career after, I feel. We've even seen Pogba now, he's having to drop to probably a much lower level club now to try and rebuild his career. And that's kind of what you might think might happen to Mudryk, but I would stress that the 4 year sort of number, that's usually the starting point, and then it kind of gets appealed, negotiated down, you take it to the various courts. CAS is the biggest court, the court arbitration court, it's kind of like the European court, they're the highest court in sport that you go to. And after Mudryk goes to that court, I guess, then we'll have a really clear sense of what his punishment will be, but it kind of starts high, and then you go down and you try and chip away at it with mitigating factors, I guess.
The positive that Mudryk has that Pogba didn't necessarily have, plenty of contract security. might still have 2-3 years left, even in the worst case scenario. So, I mean, it's a difficult one. That, you know, I sympathise with Enzo Moresca as well, because predictably he was going to be asked about it, and asked about it a lot in his press conference today. And I think he might be criticised in some quarters for saying that he hasn't spoken to Mudryk since the Conference League final. But ultimately, he's a coach. You know, he's working with the players he has, and this is something that doesn't mean no one at the club is talking to Mudryk. I'm sure there is a constant dialogue between the club and his people. It's just Moresca's job is to focus on the squad and the next match.
Yeah, I think that's rightly so. But I think Chelsea are providing support to Mudryk and stuff like that. It's not like he's been cut completely cold. They're doing what they can with the limits that they have. There's huge limits, so he's allowed to train, but not with the squad. And he's getting like emotional support if he needs it. I think a lot of his support's going to be in-house and inside Chelsea rather than any other organisations. But yeah, he has that kind of support from Chelsea. We heard Moresca say in his press conference that like he supports him, like he has the support of the squad, and you know, in you know, when he first got charged, and now as well when the actual nature of the charges come out.
And just to be really clear, Pogba went through it's a different doping thing, but it was still like a 4-year charge that got reduced down to 18 months after appeal to the Court of Arbitration of Sport. CAS is the kind of final frontier for this, right? So like, whenever it kind of shakes out from that decision, that's pretty much the final thing, right?
Yeah. So that's where we're heading. There's a little journey to get there, I feel, and there'll be a few stories along the way, but that's the decisive one, from what I can tell.
And then just from a club perspective, like where does this leave Chelsea? Obviously, they put a ton of money into becoming Mudryk. They obviously have wages that are a significant portion over the kind of lifetime of his contract too. Some of that doesn't get paid out during the period, but also there's all these appeals, things of that nature, the exposure that they have there. Like where does that leave them from an investment standpoint?
Well, I think you have to say, just being honest, that even before any of this happened with Mudryk, it wasn't exactly going well, was it? He wasn't really being trusted by Moresca in Premier League games, and Moresca was, the third coach that he worked with at Chelsea who hadn't been able to get the best out of him in Premier League matches. So it's difficult for him. I think Chelsea they always look at the big picture with this. You know, you can see from the number of players that they sign and sell, they're looking at this overall, and there's a word a lot of supporters will hate, portfolio. You know, some players will work, some players won't, some players will go up in value, some players will go down for any number of reasons. And if the worst comes to the worst with Mudryk, then he's just one of the ones that didn't pay off, albeit one of the bigger bets that they've made when you look at the transfer fee. And
his number is now gone. So I mean, and Cole getting the 10, I don't think it's like that big of a deal. I think we all understand why that would happen. But is this the club just kind of looking ahead to the future and having an uncertain situation that they probably just have to manage around anyway, even if he wasn't banned?
I think we have to be careful trying to speculate on their motives, but I think it's clear that it's a move that will be interpreted widely outside the club as them kind of planning for life without Mudryk for an extended period, because you wouldn't take someone's squad number off them, unless it's Trevor Chalobah, of course, if you're not planning to have them around.
Yeah, just say that Cole Palmer deserves a number 10 as well, so clearly that's a pretty good marketing move, I guess, and he deserves it on sporting achievement for sure.
Trivia on Cole Palmer's total goal contributions to come.
Okay, glad you seated that for everybody here in the audience, and it's wonderful. When you think about the other players that we have kind of currently at Chelsea, ones that are not having the same situation that Mudryk is in right now, where do you see, with the remainder of the matches that Chelsea have for the Club World Cup, if we were to get very deep in this competition, who is the one or two players that have unlocked another level under Naz and Liam and Chelsea to drive it across the line?
I think Enzo Fernandez has really become an important player. Like it's those clutch moments that are starting the goal in the Conference League final was massive, and I know Cole Palmer did an amazing piece of skill to unlock that door, but I love the way he arrives in the box. There's a skill to being that one-touch finisher or two-touch finisher, as he was against LAFC. And I like to see that because he's a great technician, he's a great keeper, but like to add that to his game where he arrives in the box a bit Frank Lampardish, dare I say. He's nothing like Frank Lampard, but that skill that he does is what Frank Lampard was brilliant at. So I'm really liking him right now, and I think he might turn into a great player. I'm still a little bit cautious because I don't think he's quite on Caicedo's or Palmer's level, but I'm starting to get a bit excited about Fernandes.
It can be a bit reductive to talk about both boxes, but in a tournament, I think if we're talking about a timeline where Chelsea really go far in the Club World Cup, it's hard to imagine that happening without either Jackson or Delap scoring, going on a run of scoring goals and carrying consistent threat. It's hard to see it without Cole Palmer being the best version of Cole Palmer, which we, aside from Rocklov, haven't really seen in 2025. And then at the other end, it looks like it will be Robert Sanchez who's entrusted with that responsibility for the rest of the tournament. I think he's had a more solid run lately. I think it's fair to say that has to continue as well, because especially in tournaments, if you concede goals, you make life so much more difficult for yourself. So yeah, I think it will come down to those ends of the pitch.
If Chelsea are to beat a team like PSG in the quarterfinal, which is an incredibly difficult task, I mean, they are the best team in the world right now, and it has to be said.
Open cackling from the audience.
They are the best team in the world. They proved it. I mean, the wings have to play much better than the production we've seen. Is someone like Pedro Neto, like, do you see him maybe on the rise throughout the end of this tournament?
I think you look at his production so far in his career, really, in terms of goals and assists, and think he's got levels to unlock. You know, he's got a lot to his game. He's got a lot of skill, he's got a lot of speed. When he's aggressive, he looks really, really dangerous. But it hasn't always manifested in the Premier League into consistent production. And yes, he was in a very limited Wolves team, and then he's kind of finding his way at Chelsea. But he has shown a few more signs of life the last couple of months, hasn't he?
Yeah, I like him in the last couple of games, and obviously the Fulham goal. I don't think Chelsea might be in the Champions League without that goal. So pretty huge moments from him. But yeah, it's consistency, numbers. Chelsea need the wingers to increase their output for sure. Because if the forwards are going to get, say Jackson and Delap get 10, 15 goals, I think all the wingers need to get 10, 15 goals to haul them up to the level they want to be.
Casual request for everybody to get 10 or 15 goals, basically. I also look at, like, Reece James, like, projecting matchups forward. Do you guys feel like he is getting anywhere close to being, like, fully match fit, 2 matches in a week sort of fitness?
I don't even know if it's a question of that, or whether Chelsea are brave enough to take that risk, unless it's really, really needed. If you had, say, the final game of the Premier League season and then a Champions League final, maybe you'd give it a try. But for a regular week, and in a regular tournament like this, I do think he'll be one of the first names, as he was against LAFC, as Romeo Lavia was, despite telling us afterwards that he wasn't injured. There is just an abundance of caution at Chelsea about those 2 players in particular, because of everything that has happened with them in the last 2-3 years. And I think when it matters, Reece James will be on the pitch, because having shown the form that he's shown in the last couple of months, he has to be. And he's also, I think, we've seen it as well, off the pitch in terms of what we've heard when we've spoken to him. He's really emerged as a leader. He carries himself differently now. You see him leading all the huddles. He needs to be out there if it's a game Chelsea need to win. So I expect that to happen, but in the meantime, they are going to manage his load really carefully.
Yeah, when I was interviewing John Terry, he was talking about Reece James, and he said that I think Reece James just needs to focus on being one thing, because he used to be this kind of player who was unbelievable going forward and unbelievable defensively, but now John Terry's saying, because of the amount you run to sort of go up and down the pitch to be good at both ends of the pitch, they're saying just focus on one thing, which is just be a great defender. And the way Moresca plays this system as well, with this sort of one fullback stepping into defence, becoming a central defensive three, and then the other fullback stepping into midfield. There is less running, so this system might actually work for him. And like we have to say, we criticise Chelsea a lot for various things, but they have managed Reece James's fitness extremely well, because at one point I was worried that there was no way back for him, and now he's gradually building back, and he's been fit for a long time, and he's returned to the England national team playing under Twomey, his former manager. So it's quite heartwarming to see, actually. I'm really happy to see Reece back, because it was sad, and he wasn't himself. He wasn't able to be the leader that Liam spoke about when he was injured, but now he has the authority of being a player on the pitch. He can be a better leader as well, and I think that's been a huge aspect to building his leadership to a better level.
Naz gets the appropriate applause for that one. Quite good. It's crazy to think about the fact that in under 2 months from today, Chelsea will be back playing in the Premier League again. Shocking. August 17th, it's at home to Crystal Palace to start the season. Chelsea have plenty of deals that they want to get done. Maybe we could play just a little bit of future casting, as it were. So if Chelsea have a keeper between the sticks, is it Rob Sanchez against Crystal Palace, yes or no?
You're just trying to get us aggregated now. It's just the most obvious trap ever.
It's fun. It's a fun little game to play while we're here in Philadelphia with some friends. Nobody's going to judge you. This isn't going to go anywhere outside of this room, ever.
Are you not having fun right now?
Strict podcast confidentiality.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm leaning towards Sanchez somehow being a number one still, especially for the first game. I could see Chelsea maybe last minute getting a goalkeeper on deadline day if they're still not convinced, but I'm leaning towards Sanchez staying.
Unless there's some movement maybe more on the Milan side with Manya, we haven't got any indication that Chelsea will move towards their price. But maybe Milan, given his contract situation, will move towards what Chelsea are prepared to pay. But unless that happens, we haven't heard any other names that they might be looking at. They really like Mike Penders, who they've just signed, and they think maybe 2-3 years from now he could be their next great goalkeeper.
What I was hearing as well is they want a goalkeeper that will really move the dial. They don't just want another Sanchez, so if they go for a mid-ranking goalkeeper, they might end up in the same problem anyway, and they've got obviously Jorgensen who'll come good anyway if Sanchez isn't playing that well, and then they do rate Mike Penders quite highly as well, and he's supposed to be a top talent. I don't know, I've not seen much of him, but he is rated.
Do you guys think that Milan goes after Georgi Petrovic? No. The answer is no.
The head shakes now. So then let's move forward then. So is it Cucurella, Levi Colwell, which centre back next to them, and Reece James?
Yeah, I do think that centre-back thing is really open, and there could even be a sign. We can't rule out a signing for a sort of right-sided centre-back. Again, it's quite similar to the goalkeeper situation, where it has to be a game-changer, moving the dial option, a real opportunity there. And that's why you don't see teams sometimes being as aggressive in the market, because they're waiting to see how the other pieces move. Like, it might suddenly be that someone like Barcelona want to sell a good player or something like that, so sometimes it pays to be slow. I think the only team moving aggressively at the minute is Liverpool, and everyone else, well, City have made a lot of signings, but a lot of other teams are kind of sitting back seeing what's the lay of the land here, and I think that there's a bit of that with Chelsea in some positions.
Well, I think Chelsea would quite like that spot to be Wesley Fofana. There were signs last year that him and Colwell were building a good understanding, their skill sets complement each other really nicely, and Moresca said on numerous occasions that Fofana's speed is pretty integral to the way he wants to defend high up the pitch. So he is trying to get back in time for the start of the season. We don't know, and we probably won't get a clear indication until after Chelsea have done the Club World Cup, whether that's going to happen, but that's what he's trying to do.
Then as we advance further up the pitch, again, just trying to make sure we get it locked in for you on the starting 11 for the opening day of the Premier League season. What does the midfield combination look like? Because obviously there's midfield 2, midfield 3, there's players coming back healthy, there's challenges there. What do we see?
This is where I think the rubber meets the road on the biggest question at Chelsea, which is like Palmer, Fernandes, Caicedo, Lavia, Reece James, I think might be the 5 best footballers in the squad. But in Moresca's system, can you only play 4 maximum? And I think it's going to be. I think it is going to be a bit opponent dependent, a bit health dependent. Early in the season, Moresca seemed to be maybe challenging Fernandes a bit, saying that he liked the physicality of the Lavia Caicedo axis, but then Fernandes responded really well. And I think against teams that are not as worried about hurting them, they will play Fernandes in that deeper role and live with his defensive limitations. Against teams that they're more worried about, probably will be Lavia and Caicedo.
Yeah, Chelsea need real depth now they're back in the Champions League, but I worry a little bit that the midfield has too much depth, because I really like all the midfielders and I'm like, can they all pick up enough minutes that they want to make them happy? You know, Caicedo's going to play loads, isn't he? Sugo's supposed to be his backup option, a very similar styles of player. Then you've got Lavia, Santos, and then Enzo Fernandez and Cole Palmer's the number 10, who rarely is dropped for big games. Like if Chelsea play PSG and then Arsenal back to back in the league, are they going to drop Palmer for one of those games? I don't think so. Are they going to drop Caicedo for one of the games? I don't think so. So I'm starting to think, is there enough minutes for all the midfielders that they have? That's the question.
Is there a world where Palmer just becomes right winger again and Enzo moves up into the 10, and then you have the opportunity to play 2 kind of deeper line midfielders like Caicedo or Santos or Lavia that would support that group?
I don't think that becomes the default for Moresca, and I know why people say it, but it comes down to what Moresca wants from his wingers. He wants them to stay wide and hold the width because he doesn't have overlapping fullbacks, and that doesn't get the best out of Palmer. When Palmer was starting off the right under Pochettino, he was basically nominally the right winger, but the number 10 when Chelsea had the ball and Malo Gusto was bombing on outside him. So I think for the balance of the team, which is what Moresca always talks about, he wants Palmer starting in that more central role with a more orthodox winger. Although what we could easily see at some point next season is Esteval playing on the right, and everyone in Brazil thinks he's a number 10.
Yeah, there's a lot of left, sort of right-sided, left-footed attackers as well. So I think that's the other superior strength position. That's why Chelsea are going for a right-footed, left-sided winger instead of that. So yeah, that's a deep position. So can Chelsea keep everyone happy? Champions League will help, because if you're getting rotated in for a Champions League game, great, you're happy about it more than you are with a Conference League game. But yeah, there's still a bit of a question in certain positions if the minutes are actually there.
But what was the answer for the Crystal Palace game?
Oh.
Are you a joke?
I'm trying to think of Palace's style of play. Right, you need physicality, I feel, so probably go with Caicedo, Lavia, and then Palmer's number 10.
Argentina hates you.
You could have given me the Enzo Moresca, just told me to fuck off. Anyway, that was an option.
You can only do that at the end of the season when you've been proven right. I'll probably go Fernandes and Caicedo because unfortunately, until we're proven otherwise, you kind of have to bet against Lavia's availability.
So then what's the attack?
I'm going to go conservative here and go with Jackson, Pedro Neto, and probably could say if Gibson signs, he could play off the left, more of a natural left winger, but yeah, could easily be Noni. Noni could still be around playing that position. And he's done a decent job of it, let's be honest. He has done a decent job of playing on the left, I thought.
Yeah, I've always got the impression that Moresca likes Neto more than Mudryk off the right. When he has to sub one of them, it's usually Mudryk that comes off first. So I'm assuming they will get a left winger because even Moresca's been bold enough to say in press conferences we're going to sign a winger. I'm going to probably assume it's Gittins, so I think he'll probably play off the left. And it'll be Neto from the start, and then I think Esteval's more of a bring him in, let him adjust to England, see exactly how far along he is and how fast he's able to go to get up to Premier League standard.
And then as we head into kind of thinking about just not the squad, but also the manager heading into next season.
I got away without picking a striker there.
Delap or Jackson.
Would you like to answer that question?
I'll go to that because you said Jackson. Balance.
Okay, we split ticket here. So, what is going to be the bar for success for Enzo Moresca for next season?
Wait, isn't Jackson suspended? I like to retract my comment.
Ooh, good little catch of the moment there. So speaking of our manager, Enzo Moresca, what is the bar for success going to be for him next season, knowing that he won a trophy last season, he got Chelsea back into the Champions League? Is it going to be death in the Champions League run? Is it going to be winning another either domestic cup or something else? Like, what is like the bar that Chelsea are going to have for him on kind of like a success this season?
I mean, they didn't set him a hard and fast, it's top 4 or you're sacked this year. When he said that publicly, he wasn't lying. That wasn't the conversation he had when he came in. It was show progress. And the expected outcome of that progress was, we think there's a top 4 level of talent in this squad, so do you. So as long as we don't have anything crazy like an injury crisis, we'll get there. And they did. So I think this season is going to be very, very different for a couple of reasons. One, you can't play 2 teams. You can't play a midweek team and a weekend team when you're in the Champions League. Their top players are going to have a much bigger workload, and that's after playing this unprecedented summer club competition, which is basically taking the place of the bulk of their pre-season. So I think it's going to be...
And World Cup, and the run-up to the World Cup next year as well.
Yeah, so I think it's going to be a massive conditioning challenge for Chelsea, actually, because some of their rivals for that top 4, top 5, Manchester City accepted, don't have to deal with that. They can have a pretty normal summer. And that's a little bit of a scary thought, and I think it's going to be really interesting to see how Chelsea handle it. But that's why you have a big squad, and this will be a test of Chelsea's squad like we've never seen before.
Yeah, I do think Liam's right there. I think it's the case of show progress just as it was before. He has always been meant to be judged at the end of his second season more than the end of his first season. So if Chelsea failed to get in the Champions League, lost to Forest, lost to Betis, we'd have expected him to stay in his post, even if a lot of Chelsea fans might have been shouting down the houses to make a change. So yeah, I think we always expected the second season to be judged more, but I do think, with Liam talking there about all the workload issues with not only Champions League, but this unprecedented Club World Cup, it'll be interesting to see if mitigating factors are considered, if there's an injury crisis and things like that. I think that's where it gets interesting, really, is, if it is a decline, then, is it the fault of this competition and all that kind of stuff. It's uncharted territory for Chelsea and the rest of us, really.
One other thought, just because, again, the transfer window is open, Chelsea still have to make one major signing that's a front kit sponsor. Something that we've really struggled with the last couple of seasons to get across the line in any of those windows. It's just a new rule that exists. Can only sign them during the regular transfer season. So when we look at it, DeMac came in for a couple games.
We hardly knew you.
We hardly knew you. The DeMac era, though, delivered European titles, so we feel really good about that. When we think about, though, what Chelsea do in terms of signing long-term kit sponsor, get back in the Champions League, it puts us in a more advantageous position to go out and recruit and attract brands that might be more interested in Chelsea now than they were previously. When do you think, maybe just not like who it has to be or the types of kind of companies, when do you think it happens? Do you think it happens end of June? Do you think it happens end of July? Do you think it maybe is going to go into the first week of the Premier League season again?
I mean, I would have said 2 weeks ago, because I was really expecting them to have one for the Club World Cup. As soon as they sealed qualification for the Champions League, that was the thing, really, that was underpinning this whole situation. Chelsea could have got a front shirt sponsor immediately if they wanted to, if they weren't fussy about the price that they were looking for. But they didn't want to lock themselves into a deal when they weren't a Champions League club. And now that obstacle is removed, so it's the real test of how good is your negotiating skill, because there should be no reason now why Chelsea can't go into next season and the years to come with a perfectly respectable front of shirt sponsor in terms of value relative to their rivals. And if they're not, then there probably have to be conversations internally about whether they're asking for too much relative to what the market's prepared to pay.
Yeah. I think Liam's right. I think it's just they want a very long-term partner as well. That's all I'll add to that. Yeah.
Well, I think we had a chance to talk about a lot of things tonight as relates to Chelsea, the Club World Cup, transfers, and we've also kind of had to go through a couple audio issues to get here to the end of the episode.
Some of which you heard, some of which you didn't.
That's what Jake, the magic of Jake, for anybody who wasn't here, is going to save a whole lot of that podcast, I think. So we're going to be very appreciative of that.
We have one fan question. Can we take one fan
We can take
question?
one fan question. Yeah. We'll do this here. Come on. Just so everybody can hear.
Yes, sir. Esteemed colleagues, Nick. This question is brought to you by the Boston Blues.
Hey.
Who will be,
Hey.
who will be buying 10, it's 1-0, Michelob buckets for the fans.
Bring it on. Come on.
We just want to know, tomorrow, I don't know if you guys know this, we are playing Flamingos?
Flamengo.
Flamingos.
Yeah.
The Boston Blues want from our esteemed colleagues, and Nick,
Yep.
score predictions. Thank you.
First off, wonderful question. I'd like to ask my two esteemed colleagues, Liam and Naz, first, if they have a prediction, and then we'll give it over to Nick to make one too.
Bring up the rear.
I just think it'd be funny to predict that Chelsea will lose in front of this audience. I'm going to go with 1-1, and it's going to be decided on goal difference who finishes top of the group.
Did you hear that one, Naz?
Yeah.
Alright, the question from the audience was he still feeling bad about United losing in the Europa?
I got cut down there.
Yeah, he got cut down. What about you?
I'm going to pander to the audience, say 2-1 Chelsea win. A late winner overcoming a Jorginho penalty that was awarded. It was awarded by VAR for the reasons of narrative.
The high sense VAR challenge room, right? It's like it's all branded everything. Nick?
3-1 Chelsea, Andre Santos gets it.
And then lifts up his shirt and has a Vasco shirt under.
Yeah. And his dad is finally proud. You know, it's like one of those things.
I'll go with Chelsea 2-1. I think it's a Liam Delap winner is going to be his first goal for Chelsea football team.
I will say, South American teams have held their own in this tournament. I mean, it's probably not going to be that easy. I think Chelsea fans are going to be, feeling the red fury tomorrow.
I don't know all the games that happened today, but South American teams were undefeated until now. So maybe either Chelsea will inflict the first defeat or not.
Well, it is a group decider game, it does feel like that. But again, we are going to wrap this episode up. For those who are here live, there's some trivia that Nick wants to run after we kind of end the podcast, but we will do our kind of traditional outro. We want to always first thank Liam and Naz for joining us here. Come back to podcast. We definitely want to thank our friends at the Philly Blues, per usual, who just kind of kill it every single time we visit.
Thank you for sticking around throughout the numerous technical issues. Give it up.